Then Neuland Laboratories, that's the stock in focus. Well, it's surging actually in today's trading session. The numbers look quite good. They've delivered a growth of around 40%, or the stock is up by close to around 8% now. In the third quarter, good revenue growth. 9 months as well, we have more than a 30% growth in terms of revenues. We have Mr. Rao who joins us now to detail those numbers. Hi, Mr. Rao. Thanks so much, sir, for joining in. Give us a couple of details. By the end of this year, what would you end up with in terms of revenues? And what about FY20? This year, you've already done a 30% growth. Next year, a more realistic number would be what, 20%?
Well, though we haven't given any specific guidance and we don't intend to, we've always maintained that a 15 to 20% growth or a medium to long term is something that we definitely target. So we continue to stick to those kind of growth expectations.
All right, so 15 to 20% over the medium term. First 9 months, you've done around 34%. So this is something that the street will be watching out for. If you could break up the color of the revenue growth that we've seen, around 41%. What are the key products that led to this revenue growth and who were the clients?
So we typically break up our business into 3 areas. We call them our prime segment, which is some of our older pharmaceuticals, which are more mature, have an established market share. Where they're kind of in the middle of the life cycle. That's about 40 to 50% of our overall revenues. We also have a specialty API segment, which are more complex molecules, which lower competition, but they're still growing. That typically contributes to about 20-25% of the overall revenues. And then, of course, we have our contract manufacturing segment, which we call our CMS, which based on the quarter contributes anything between about 17, 18, all the way up to 25%. So we've seen good growth in all of these segments. Of course, what I've mentioned on the previous call is we've also seen our prime products grow very good. Those are bread and butter products. And very stable revenue base. So it's good to see growth come from that segment as well.
What about your CMS business? That's the one I want to focus on. The first half of the year was rather weak. You did less than 30 crores. But in the past quarter, you've done more than 30 crores. What kind of a number are you looking at from the CMS business? Because that's the margin accretive business. At the end of this year, what kind of a revenue number should you wind up with? And what about FY20? If you're going to be growing by 15-20%, what sort of a number should be coming out of the CMS business?
See, as we've maintained, and I think it's very valid for the CMS business in general, is that it's a very high growth area and a high opportunity business for Neuland. Having said that, it can also be volatile because for us, it's still a maturing business. Unlike the generic drug substance business, which is more mature, products more established, CMS segment consists of molecules where certain applications
Mr. Rao, I just want to interrupt you on that. You know, the reason I ask you this is because the last quarter has been very good. Quarter 3, finally, these numbers from the CMS business are looking good. But for the 9 months, you know, there's a degrowth of around 6%. So is Neuland Laboratories done with the degrowth? Now we are going to see growth in that CMS business because as you're saying, you know, that's the margin accretive business as well. You know, that's a business that's been growing as well.
So, Nigel, to give you a very specific response, and I'll get straight to the point, is CMS is a growing business. Therefore, we expect that quarter-to-quarter volatility for sure. At the same time, we are in the early stage of the business. It's going to be a big part of the business in the future. Until it gets to be a critical part of the overall sales, we will expect to see volatility, was my whole point, which I was trying to answer specifically.
Right. Mr. Rao, tell us about Salmeterol, because that's the big trigger for you. Have you begun supplying to Advair, Teva for Advair?
See, because of our non-disclosure agreements, we are never in a position to divulge the names of our customers. But
okay. So let's talk about the drug itself. Have you begun supplying products for Salmeterol?
Have we begun to supply commercial supplies of Salmeterol? Yes, we have.
Okay. All right. Mr. Rao, you know, the numbers look good. Your commentary finally is looking up. So investors would be happy. But I'm looking at your margin picture. You're still doing less than, you know, you're doing that 8.5%, 9%, 9.5% approximately. You used to do close to around 14-15% odd. In the coming year, given that you were talking about, you know, backward integration, some of your solvent prices have moved lower, and maybe additional focus on CMS and other niche API products, will you see margins go back towards that kind of a number, 14 to 15% from the sub 10% that you're doing currently?
Yes, that's definitely our expectation.
That in FY20 you can do margin of 14 to 15%?
Yes, like I said, in the past, we've bought a facility, we've backward integrated intermediates that we were depending on China, which is what led to our reduction in margins to begin with. At the same time, we see our CMS business growing, so I think all the signs are in the right direction.
All right, and before we let you go, your balance sheet, can you tell us your debt, your gross debt, the cash that you have on your books, and your net debt?
So today, the cash on books is about 32 to 35 crores. This is cash in bank. Our working capital, the sanction limits are approximately about 210 crores, but our utilization is only about 140 to 150 crores, so we're hardly about 60% off utilization. Our term loans are about 85 crores. Our debt equity is 0.35 or so. So very, we're pretty conservative. We continue to be fiscally frugal, and that's our intent going forward as well.
All right, Mr. Rao, thanks a lot for joining in. So that's a net debt of close to around 180 odd crores. The stock higher by about 8.5%. So with that, we're out of time on this edition of Chartbusters. You stay tuned to CNBC TV 18.